Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another video from AIT Learning Hub.
This video is a basic overview of human immune system. I am Arun, a senior clinical associate in the pediatric cardiac intensive care. What is immune system? Immune system is the body's defense mechanism against harmful pathogens including bacteria, viruses, fungi and parasites. It consists of a network of lymphatic organs, tissues and cells. Immunity is the ability to resist infection and disease. The components of the human immune system. The immune system consists of two defense mechanisms. One is the non-specific defense system and the specific defense system. This non-specific defense system is otherwise called as the innate immunity that is present since our birth. That includes physical barriers like skin and mucous membrane and cells like neutrophils and macrophages. The specific defense system includes the white blood cells, which fights infection through inactivating foreign materials and cells, and they are the soldiers of defense system. The specific defense system is part of adaptive immunity as they develop defense mechanism over a period of time in response to specific pathogens, and this involves B cells, T cells, and antibodies. The non-specific defense has two lines of defense. One is the barrier defense with skin, sweat and mucus and tears. The skin provides a physical barrier to keep the pathogens out of the body. Any cut or break in the skin will allow the pathogens to enter the body. Shredding of skin epithelium helps in removing the bacteria. Sweat, mucus and tears contain lysosomes and other chemicals that kill the bacteria. Apart from this, we have the blood-brain barrier which protects the nervous system from pathogens. Then you have the disinfectant properties of the gastric secretions. Peristalsis helps in removal of infectious agents in the GI tract. Then there are bile acids that are synthesized in the liver, again works as a barrier. Next is the immune response. That's by fever, where the rise in temperature slows down the bacterial growth and replication of pathogen. Then macrophages or the WBCs, which are designed to engulf the pathogens. Then the inflammatory reaction, where the infected area swells up with lymph and blood, bringing in a lot of WBCs and macrophages to fight the antigen. Onto the specific defenses. This immune system attacks specific pathogen, and the pathogen is usually recognized by its specific antigen. Two subsets of lymphocytes, that's a B cells and T cells, play a vital role in this type of mechanism. The B cells are responsible for making the antibodies and creating immunological memory of the antigens. The T cells recognize and kill the pathogens. Types of specific defenses. There are two types of specific defenses. One is the antibody-mediated immunity, which involves formation of antibodies that mark pathogens for destruction. This involves the B cells. And the second type is the cell-mediated immunity, wherein the cells attack the infected cells and destroy them. This involves the T cells. Antibody-mediated immunity. This is also called as humoral immunity. The antibodies produced by the B cells neutralize pathogens, activate complement mechanism, and facilitate elimination from the body. The primary response is about 3 to 6 days from the recognition, and then the immune attack is launched. The helper T cells are the ones which signal B cells to divide and differentiate to produce two types of cells, namely the plasma cells, which makes antibodies, and the B memory cells that remember the antigen for future recognition of the same organism and for an immune response. These antibodies generated attach to the antigens that are outside the cell, and the macrophages engulf anything that is labeled with an antibody. And these antibodies won't allow the pathogens to infect the cells. This is a pictorial representation of how antibody-mediated immunity works. B cell is triggered when it encounters its matching antigen. This B cell engulfs the antigen and digests it. It then displays the antigen fragments bound to its unique MHC molecule, or it is called the major histocompatibility molecules. This combination of antigen and the MHC attracts the mature matching T cell. This leads to increased cytokine secretion by the T cell that in turn leads to multiplication of B cells. That B cells end up producing antibodies and plasma cells. When these are released into the blood, these antibodies lock with the matching antigens and an antigen-antibody complexes are formed. that is then cleared by the complement cascade by the liver or the spleen. With the antibody-mediated immunity, the secondary response is when the same antigen is encountered again. This time, the B cells respond faster to make antibodies, and the response is within 2 to 3 days. This results in the person not getting sick. Onto the cell-mediated immunity. The T cells carry out cell-mediated immunity when viruses or pathogens get inside the cells or when a cell turns cancerous and antibodies alone cannot destroy them. The infected cells displace the antigens from the pathogen on its cell membrane. The T cells divide and differentiate to recognize and kill this infected cell. The T cells differentiate themselves into helper T cells, cytotoxic or the killer T cells, suppressor T cells, and the memory T cells. The helper T cells help in recognizing the antigen and recruit other cells to fight the invader. They act as the general in command. They signal the B cells to make antibodies. They attract the cytotoxic or the killer cells. The cytotoxic or the killer cells kill the infected cells by injecting toxic chemicals. They act like trained assassins. Suppressor T cells release chemicals to suppress the activity of the T and B cells from overreacting or harming the body. The memory T cells help in secondary response in case of similar antigen attacking it. This slide explains the humoral immune response as well as the cell-mediated immune response. First exposure to the antigen leads to antigens being engulfed and displayed by the dendritic cells. That in turn activates the helper T cells. This helper T cells activates the B cells, leading to a humoral immune response. These B cells generate plasma cells, which in turn secrete antibodies that defend against pathogens and toxins or create memory cells for future response. If the antigens are displayed by the infected cells, they activate the type cytotoxic T cell, which either give rise to cytotoxic memory T cells or activate further cytotoxic cells which kill the infected cells. Thus, this defends against the infected cells, cancer cells or transplanted tissues. Acquired immunity. Acquired immunity is acquired after exposure to antigen and a memory B or a T cell is made. It is two kinds. Either it can be an active immunity where antibodies are made in response to an antigen, for example vaccines, or natural exposure to a pathogen, or passive immunity where antibodies are obtained from another source, as in case of mother's milk given to the babies. Finally, a comparison and differences between the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. While the innate immunity is present since birth, adaptive immunity is developed after the birth. Innate immunity is non-specific while the adaptive immunity is specific. The response time of innate immunity is fast, but it is less potent, while the adaptive immunity is slow, but it's more potent and specific. Innate immunity is inherited, while adaptive immunity is not inherited. Neutrophils, mast cells, basophils, dendritic cells, eosinophils, monocytes, macrophages, and natural killer cells form the major components of innate immunity, while B lymphocytes, helper T cells, killer T cells, and antibodies form the major components of adaptive immunity.
Hope this video was informative. Please do leave your comments, feedback, and queries in the comment section. We would like to hear from you. In case you found this video informative, please do share with your friends. Thank you.